Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nuance Needed podcast. I'm Amanda White.
And this is Sam Dalton.
We're going to talk about, I think, a couple of things. We'll see where this episode goes. But we're going to talk about, I think, a lot of the misinformation about what therapy is online.
Yeah, I think people not understanding what therapy is, what actually happens in session and in the client therapist dynamic, like as sessions go on, but also I think what people are not understanding online, like through online discourse and commentary of what therapy is and therapy speak, and how people, I think you and I have both said it feels sometimes like people willfully misunderstand us and our content.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's hard because if you push back on therapy speak, because people think therapy speak is therapy, they think you're pushing back or invalidating therapy. And from our perspective, it's like therapy speak is so not therapy. That is why we're speaking out against it, because it is causing harm. Because you brought up before we started recording, there is this pervasive narrative now where therapy is just endless validation. And people like Scott Galloway are getting on podcasts and saying maybe people don't need therapy because it's just an endless validation circle. And that's absolutely not true. And it's so frustrating because, you know, I see it as this narrative that has changed of, right, like therapy was embarrassing and it was for people who had serious problems like 10 years ago. And now we've done a lot of work of destigmatizing it to the point where sometimes it's like, having a therapist is cool and it shows growth. And of course, I think we've critiqued how overly wanting to, you know, have a mental health diagnosis isn't great either. But through that, it's become this like polarized dynamic of you either love therapy and you're going to be in therapy for forever and it's a huge part of your identity and you just want to be validated all the time, or you're against therapy because you're against that. And we've skipped the nuance again.
I think what has been misunderstood is, I think at a high level, some of that stigma still exists, which is, I think people assume that there is a world for people that are severely mentally ill, severe depression, severe anxiety, severe trauma. There's now kind of this assumption that like they deserve it. Right? Like those people should be going. They are the ones that quote unquote need it. And then everybody else underneath, I feel like it's started this war where people are like, well, nothing bad happened to you. You haven't been through anything. You don't have this diagnosis for real. Why are you going to talk to this person? And then there's the other side that's like everybody all the time should be in therapy. I've been in therapy for 15, 20 years and it's changed my life and it's all good or it's all bad.
Yep.
Because of the online discourse, and we know the algorithms and our echo chambers and all of that. Where I fall is in the middle, which is I do agree that I think anybody at any point could benefit from talking to a therapist. What I think gets lost is that just because you are going to therapy does not immediately mean you are doing intensive trauma work, you are doing intensive symptom management, you are doing really, really deep lifestyle work, right? And day-to-day living work. A lot of times I've been finding in the last couple of years, the people that I've worked with, that a lot of it is they've just never felt they've had a chance in their life to really articulate their inner world and to really make sense of what their inner experience has been in their own life. And when I hear therapy speak really is just psychoeducation. It's terminology that we as professionals have learned either through education, through study, through research, through observation, to make sense of common experiences for people. And so when I introduce psychoeducation in my session with my clients, which I do regularly, what I'm really inviting them there to do is actually explore how they relate to something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling them that that is definitively their experience.
Yeah.
I am offering them something and empowering them to look at it critically and say, do I feel this fits my life, what I've been through, my experience, my relationships, my decisions? Does this fit me?
Mm-hmm.
And the terminology itself, whatever word, phrase, concept you want to put in there, that's a neutral thing. It's not a moral thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not good, it's not bad. It's just a neutral term that someone then gets to decide their meaning of that word through their own lens,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if it fits what they've been through, if it doesn't. And I think that is what is getting missed a lot in therapy and for therapists that do provide good therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Because like any industry, there are therapists that I don't think are very good. Yeah. And I've seen some on a professional level that I'm like, ugh, like, I don't know about you mm-hmm. and your approach. But I think there's a lot of therapists doing incredible, incredible work that has nothing to do with just constantly telling somebody why they're right and why everybody is wrong and why they've never done anything wrong because they've been through a BCD mm-hmm. situation. That's just simply fallacy. Yeah. And it's not how it works. Yeah. Like there's truth where I think, sure, there are probably some people that are in good, stable places and maybe they don't necessarily need to talk to somebody, mm-hmm. right? There's not a pressing, urgent need. But I think to come and kind of be like, I wonder why I did choose this career. Mm-hmm. Or I have like a really big decision in front of me and I don't know what to do mm-hmm. about it. And I'm not quite sure why it feels so hard for me to make a commitment. Or, man, my dating has just like sucked. And I think maybe I'm part of the problem, but I don't know what I'm contributing to that problem, right? Like, it's not just like, oh my gosh, I was sexually abused or sexually molested as a child or an adult and now I have to go process it. Or I went to war or I have schizophrenia, right? Like those are actually very far ends of the bell curve mm-hmm. where a professional would say, I strongly recommend you speak to someone consistently and get treatment, mm-hmm. right? But there's the rest of us in the middle where it's like we've overcomplicated it so much and we've made it so intense. Mm-hmm. Even through trying to normalize it, I feel like any of the conversations around therapy have become incredibly intense. Mm-hmm. Even all the way to Secret Lives of Mormon Wives having an EMDR session on TV, which was so poorly done. I'm actually I'm quite shocked that that therapist was okay with that editing.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure
she might not have had a say.
She didn't have editing power.
Yeah, I'm sure she didn't have a say.
Absolutely not.
But I also, I don't know. I think I would have a really hard time agreeing to one of my sessions being filmed.
Absolutely.
I would professionally, I would have a very, very hard time with agreeing to that. More so for the privacy of what we're talking about. And I wouldn't ever want that space to be a reminder of feeling like someone was overexposed. Mm-hmm. And that is my fear with, I think, what's going on in that situation, but we can talk about that in a different episode. But anyway, that is kind of my word vomit feel.
Yeah, I think with therapy speak, I think the problem is it's like there are these terms and their purpose is education, like you said. Mm-hmm. And then the problem is they get weaponized and used against other people, against themselves. They're incredible fodder for the right to sort of blame all of the issues. And it's really hard because we don't educate people on this so then you can go educate other people on this.
Right. Or so that you now feel superior to anybody mm-hmm. because you understand this terminology, which like the amount of people that use gaslighting incorrectly is...
Oh my God. I was watching the show, which I highly recommend. It's called The Diplomat.
Oh, yeah. I love that show.
Me too.
I love it.
I just got into it. So good. Grace Penn, right? Like the vice president, she goes like, stop gaslighting me. When Kate, the main character, isn't saying for sure if she wants to be the vice president or not. And I'm like, this is such a good example of she should have stopped lying, stop being shady. This person is not gaslighting you. This person is not making you say that, making you feel crazy by systematically breaking down your sense of self. She's just being shady and isn't sure and is lying.
Gaslighting legitimately is when you see something happen with your own two eyes. Someone does something to you in the flesh, you see something happen, you experience something, you witness another person do something, and the other person comes to you and literally says, that didn't happen. And when you push and push and push, they get more and more mad and they're like, you're fucking insane. What do you mean? That never happened. That it wasn't like that. You know it wasn't like that. Stop trying to make me the bad guy. That is gaslighting.
Right? Gaslighting, the difference between lying and gaslighting. Lying is, I didn't do that. Gaslighting is, you didn't see me do that. It's about the other person.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you want a full breakdown on gaslighting, we actually have a whole guide on Substack where you can check that out. We also had the incredible Britt Frank on where we talked heavily about gaslighting in the narcissism episode.
Yes.
We did.
Yes. That was very good.
Yeah. Can we get into because I do think you have a really good point about how it's like we've destigmatized it, but we haven't. And I think part of also maybe how we got here with Therapy Speak is that every single person now is giving mental health advice. Your coffee shop is making content on Instagram and saying, take care of your mental health by coming in and getting a cup of coffee. Your plant shop is saying, do self-care for your mental health and come in and buy a plant. Like everything has become content. So everything then is becoming, in a lot of ways, advice and self-help.
Mm-hmm.
And then that bleeds into therapy speak and therapy. Mm-hmm. It is crazy how everything's become self-help in the past few years.
It has. Everything has that lens to it. But also, I think it's because when I think of self-help, and I know I've kind of explored this through some of my own content over the past couple of months, I really struggle with self-help because I think what it is deep down is that self-help to me is actually the toxic element of mental health content. Because I think self-help is where you can start to get into the mental gymnastics of justifying why everything you want to do and the way you see everything is the only correct way. And that people that challenge that are the threat because they're dismissive. And I think it's why so many people are choosing coaches over therapists.
Yeah, because you're going to be way more likely to get the answer you want out of a coach.
Right. Right. And someone will just be like, they'll just yes you to death. They'll just yes you to death. And they'll serve you the most like basic one-liners with no ability to really explain how you can actually make sense of that for your own life or walk you through what that process is. And I think like the largest culprit of this truly right now, I think, is Mel Robbins. I really do. And I would say that with my whole chest. Her New York Times article was appalling.
Yeah.
It was appalling. It was so unhelpful. It was so bizarre in the loops it was trying to connect together and trying to be like, respect the fact that your dad knows how to carve a turkey. Like, what? It was the most bizarre. And then this guilt and shame frame around anybody saying like, nah, I don't want to do that. And kind of like, why can't we just be happy, guys? Let's just all be happy. And what I struggle with is I'm like, where did this woman become so emboldened to speak with so much audacity on something she has no understanding of?
Because she is a motivational speaker. When I look at all of the people, all of the self-help people who are the worst, they're all motivational speakers. Right. Because if you think about the job of a motivational speaker, it is literally just to motivate someone to do whatever. And it's not actually about understanding them or helping them in any meaningful way or delivering anything of substance.
See, what I want to bring back is experts.
Mm-hmm.
I really, across industries, across fields of research and understanding, I want to make experts cool again. I really do. I really, really, really want to listen to very smart, intelligent people who have spent their life hyperfixating on one particular element of something and that they know what they're talking about. I really, really want to bring that back. I really do. I think we have over democratized the microphone. I really, truly do. And I even say this as someone who is a content creator and has a microphone, but I also stay in my lane. My content stays in my lane hard. And I think too many people with too much confidence have spent way too much time talking about things they really know nothing about.
Well, I also think the problem is we've gotten into this phase in life or in society where people are just like, people don't know things. And then they're like, well, I'm going to talk to this person. And then they're going to say what they know. And I'm not really taking responsibility for what they say, right? Obviously, the most extreme example of this is Joe Rogan. And like, well, I don't know. I'm just going to bring on like every problematic person I can find. And I don't support them, but here they are. What do you think? I don't know. And obviously, there's something to be said for, I think we can go the other way. And I think myself included, as a reaction to everything that's happened with Joe Rogan, you can feel like, oh my God, like you can drive yourself insane being like, I need to 100% support every single person who I talk to, interact with, bring on my podcast, right? You can drive yourself insane, which I have before. And we need to be able to disagree with people and have different perspectives. And none of us are going to be 100% in agreement with everyone else. But there's a big difference between having healthy disagreement and having someone who is an expert in their field come on and hearing them versus just picking random people, and not even because you have no experience, you can't engage with them really in a meaningful conversation.
Right. They have no frame of reference for what they're really talking about. They're just spouting out their own anxieties and fears and uncertainties.
And it's really great for getting clicks and engagement, right? You can just bring on extreme people and be like, well, I don't support them, but I just wanted to talk to them. And this is the really problematic clip that they said on my podcast, but I don't know. But that's the problem because that if you look at, right, like the top podcasts, I would say the top like mental health and wellness podcasts, besides Liz Moody, who, shout out to her, I think she's incredible and I really respect her. Yeah. Everyone else is like doing the Joe Rogan sort of method, or they're doing the Mel Robbins method, of which she also does too, of just like, shut up, pull up your pants, do it. It's so easy. It's so easy. That's what drives me insane too, as I'm just like, anyone could write an article being like, respect your dad's ability to cut turkey and he's good, at the end of your life, what are you going to look back on? And that doesn't deal with reality. It doesn't deal with the complexity and the nuance. And it's so much easier to just be black and white, but that doesn't actually help people.
No, it doesn't help people at all. And I think what you just laid out is like the ultimate segue back into like what people are not understanding about therapy and the misinformation surrounding therapy speak is that everybody sharing their experiences has merit because people need to know that they're not alone. It is incredibly powerful to recognize that this thing that you went through that made you feel so isolated and alone is a experience that millions of people have also had, right? There's a community there. You can come together. You can connect. What I think has happened with people utilizing their platforms to simply share stories or to talk about things, which that by itself is fine. You're allowed to do whatever you want with your story, however that helps you feel in control of that narrative or responsible for that narrative. You do what you have to do. Yet, I think because of the way social media is structured and the way content at large is now structured, the worst of the worst gets the most traction. And I think there are a lot of people that see these stories day in, day out, scroll after scroll after scroll after scroll. They just see all these horrible things. And they then assume that that is the blanket experience for that particular situation. And I even think if we're going to talk about estrangement or just kind of like drive through that town for a second, what I try to remind any single person that I work with, whether this is professional, whether this is a friend, whether it's my own family, there is nothing that says you have to be estranged or no contact from your family. And I think what has happened is a lot of people seeing all of the I'm estranged, I'm no contact from my family content and stories. They've now assumed that people are just doing that because they want to.
Yeah.
They're like, so now everybody, because they see how horrible it is and they see how many people are doing it, and they're just sad for these families, and they're sad for these parents, and they're sad for this and that. So now what do? They're like, look at this trend. Look at young people being so spoiled and so selfish. And nothing is further from the truth. Because there's plenty of people that actually would identify themselves as estranged and are still in communication with their family. Right?
Yeah.
And also, I think a lot of people who are estranged would look at somebody who says like, oh, I got in a fight with my mom today and I think I'm going to go no contact. I think a lot of people who are actually in the community and doing that work would be like, please grow up. Like, that is not,
Yeah. No, I think that's such a good point, Sam, because number one, we always have to be wary of the trends of like when gay marriage was legalized. lots more people became gay overnight, which is just that people were able to come out and feel safe. And I think with people talking about estrangement more, people feel like it's an option and it's safe. We're going to have Whitney on the podcast who will dive into that more next week. She's the founder of Calling Home and is like an estrangement expert. But I think it's also like just because someone loosely talks about it doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Correct.
And I think that's what we're collapsing is like estrangement is really hard and painful and it takes many steps. And maybe, yes, some people have language that they sort of like misuse. Like I've had a client be like, I think I'm going to cut off my mom or whatever, which maybe they wouldn't have said that before, but that doesn't mean they're estranged or they're going to do it.
I love that you brought this up because the other thing that people miss about therapy is it is a space where you can try on a lot of hats.
That's the point. I love being like, as a therapist, we're going to go shopping. This is literally the metaphor I used. And I'm like, you can try on all these things and we'll see what fits and we'll see what doesn't. And I won't be offended if you don't like something.
And I say that all the time. I'll say like, what do you think of this? I want to know your thoughts. How are you feeling about this? Like, does this feel like it relates to you? And also it's the space for you to say like, I think this is dumb. I hate this. I don't like this. I think I do like this.
Yes.
I don't agree with that.
Yes.
I think I do agree with that. The training that we get around unconditional positive regard, right, that we are meant to have towards our clients is I understand that in this space, you are going to be saying things that you wouldn't say to anybody else. And my job is to create the space where you feel safe enough to say that. And we don't have to do anything about it. And I will tell my clients when we stumble on something that I'm like, ooh, that was a sore spot. I will say, we can just look at this.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything about it. We don't have to dive in yet. We can just look at it.
And I think that's the misunderstanding is people think if someone says this in therapy that therapists are then like, you must be estranged from your family. And exactly, like the amount of clients I have who've talked about getting divorced, who are not going to get divorced, obviously.
Yes.
And I don't hold it against them. They don't like, that's not what therapy is. It's a space to say things that you're holding in that, you wouldn't say to someone else. Exactly, Sam. I love the way that you're like, we're going to put it on the table and just like dissect it and look at it. And why did you feel the need to say it? But that doesn't mean that it's true. Or like, there's lots of things that we think about and we explore that like aren't true or aren't something we're going to do. And I think maybe people are collapsing someone saying something with the follow through. Okay, so if you're listening to this episode and feeling like, oh my gosh, I could actually really use a therapist, we've got you. My practice, Therapy for Women Center, has therapists licensed in 43 states across the country. All the therapists are hired by me, trained by me, handpicked by me, and we really back and support our therapists. We vouch for them, unlike some of these big online therapy platforms. Also, if you're local to the Philadelphia area, we have 3 office locations there. So I would love for you to go to our website, therapyforwomencenter.com, and check it out.
I've been wanting to add this for a long time.
Yeah.
I find it funny that the people that are the most against a concept like estrangement are the exact people who have children old enough to do that to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, please, what are you afraid of? No.
I know.
What are you afraid of? What have you done to your kids? that you're afraid they're going to stop talking to you for.
No one can do it. Like, I'm sorry, but build a good enough, like, beyond your child getting red pilled and going into the manosphere, which I still think like you have some control over in terms of like working on that relationship. But you should be, as a parent, working on your relationship with your kid from day one, not parenting them and then being like, hope our relationship lasts as you grow up and leave. Like, you should be preparing for this the whole time.
Well, and also I think so many people, and this is across the board, and I think this ties into everybody wanting to feel validated in their experience, because when you are validated in the most toxic form, you have now been given a get out of jail free card for accountability. You and I both know that's not the true form of it.
Right.
But I think that's what a lot of people have read validation to be.
Yes.
You and I both know that that's just empathy. And that I can say to someone like, "Oh my God, like that is so horrible and that's so awful."
It is really,
and
can we just pause on, like, it's insane that we live in a culture that's like, if someone says that's horrible, that's like bad, or that they're going to misuse that.
I know.
Like, that should be happening anyway. I don't know. Yeah. But I agree. I think I totally agree. I think that's such a good point. And even it's funny because I've had a reporter reach out to me who I talked to who was just kind of asking me like, you're pushing back on therapy speak. This is so interesting. How are you a therapist who's pushing back on therapy speak? Aren't your clients mad that you don't validate them? And I was just like, this is such a fascinating example of collapsing therapy speak and online world with therapy and not understanding what therapy is. Because validation, like you said, is a lot of times just empathy. I can validate why someone feels that way. I can be like, I understand why you feel that way. That's really hard. And I don't have to agree with them or say that they're good or say that they're right. Like, I work a lot of times with like people with like substance use issues, and I'm validating, I get why you want to drink. That doesn't mean I'm telling them to drink. It's not me giving them a permission slip to keep drinking. I'm just creating an environment where then change can happen. And I think that's the problem, is people think validation is dangerous because they think, they fundamentally misunderstand that validation isn't agreement or support or encouragement. Those are different things.
Those are all different things. Validation is witnessing someone's humanity.
Yes.
It is not a green light. It is not a carte blanche. It is not a free-for-all. It's like the most basic act of empathy. To be like, yeah, I can understand how going through that would cause you to feel that way. Now, because what I've been explaining to people more and more and more is that if you want to have a healthy sense of self, empathy and accountability are on the same exact coin. You cannot have, in a healthy dynamic, one without the other.
Totally.
Right? Because if I am going to ask someone for accountability appropriately, right, I have to come with a perspective-based understanding of the situation and saying, this is the piece of this that I am asking for accountability on, right? I don't ask somebody for accountability because I just broad stroke them. I think you're a dick. Please say sorry to me for your existence. Like that's not it. But to like loop back to the estrangement thing, and I think to you listening, the reason we're going to this is because one, it's the hottest topic right now that everybody is talking about online. And two, I think it's the most obvious example when we're talking about like therapy speak and weaponization and validation and all those sorts of things. So to anybody that has, and maybe I'm going to frame it this way. If you have some type of a family member and you feel like you have this fear of estrangement or this fear that they're going to stop talking to you or this fear that they're going to cut you off, what I would say is you don't have to fully understand the situation that they're bringing to you in order to have empathy for them saying that something caused them harm. And then addressing the issue, maybe very kindly using I statements, explaining your experience and saying, however, regardless, I am sorry that caused you harm. Mm-hmm. Right? And allowing that phrase to exist, that is repair. Mm-hmm. That is how you build trust with another person, that this person can come to you and bring difficult things to you. And you can check your freaking ego at the door and just let the truth of what they are bringing to you exist. Mm-hmm. Now, you are 100% correct. They don't need to call you names. They don't need to be cruel to you. They don't need to be judgmental of you, right? Like, but if someone is coming to you in good faith mm-hmm. and saying like, I feel X, Y, and Z because A, B, C happened, and you are the cause of A, B, C.
You can have empathy. Even if you didn't mean empathy. It and it wasn't your fault.
You can feel bad that you caused someone harm. Mm-hmm. Feel bad. Allow that to exist. And not in like this people pleasing, like, oh, I have to fix it. But to sit in that like, fuck, that's not who I want to be.
Yes. Even if it wasn't your fault. Like, let's just make this the example of like you stepped on someone's heel.
Yes. Right.
You didn't mean it. It was an accident. No. It wasn't your fault. Yeah. No. You still maybe caused someone pain. And and you acknowledging their pain doesn't mean you're a bad person or it's your fault or you did it on purpose.
No.
But we collapse those.
Right. We collapse them together and we have the all or nothing catastrophic thinking that is attached to any conversation that would ask us for difficult feelings to come to the surface. I think feelings that are spicy and hurt and are uncomfortable and that many of us don't know what to do with because we weren't taught what to do with them. And also you having experienced cruelty in silence does not mean someone else should have to do that.
Yes. Yeah, I think the problem also is people misunderstand validation. And I get it. Like if you aren't a therapist and you just see all of these posts on Instagram and on TikTok being like, protect your peace, take care of yourself, no is a complete sentence, never do anything that makes you abandon yourself. You always have a right to say no. All of these things, I get why you think that's therapy. Like, I get why you would think going to a therapist, they would just be like, no, you don't have to deal with that. Protect your peace. I get that. It's just that's not what therapy is. And I will even say, yes, if you're seeing a therapist who like doesn't talk very much, doesn't challenge you, you don't need a directly challenging therapist. Some therapists, that's their style. But like a lot of therapists can challenge by sort of being like, explain that to me. I'm confused. Help me understand. Or they can really create this environment where you're in relationship with your therapist and you guys can explore your nature in the therapy room of sort of like, a lot of times we say your relationship in the therapy room with your therapist mirrors other relationships outside. And that is such such great work can happen in that space. Because also of like Freud and how therapy started as someone laying on a couch and looking up at the ceiling and someone not responding. They think that therapy is just someone nodding and going, that must be really hard. That must be really hard. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Like it does, especially therapists who aren't skilled. But good therapists care about the client meeting their goals. plain and simple. That's our only goal. And yeah, like we can have a client whose goal is something that we don't necessarily agree with, and that's what we support. But we're always trying to mirror and challenge and help them see themselves more clearly so they can make choices that are in alignment with their values and goals.
Absolutely. And my approach to that is I think any therapist standing here would agree. Mm-hmm. We have each had clients change their mind on things, make different decisions than what we had talked about in session, change their mind based on things that we had spent sessions talking about and preparing for and working through and blah, blah, blah. And then we get to the session and they're like, so guess what? Yeah. And you're like, yeah. and there's been sometimes with certain clients where I will say, I'm proud of you for making that call for yourself. Can I share some concerns that I have with that?
Totally.
I've done that before.
Oh yeah. When I have a client who's like, I've decided that I'm just going to moderate. After all the work we've done. I think it's really the right choice for me. But part of being a therapist, which is different than a coach or other things, is you are trained to and some therapists fail at this, but you are trained to distinguish your own feelings about something from the work that you're doing. And you're trained to look at your biases and be like, is my biasy that this person, like this happens all the time in therapists who are like trained in 12-step programs. They don't accept moderation at all. But there's a difference between me watching a client fail at moderate for a year.
Right.
And seeing how their life, they're not functioning in life and being like, these are my concerns. Help me understand. Why do you think this is a good idea? Versus just being like, no, this will never work and shutting it down.
Yes. Yes. I want my clients to feel like every option is on the table.
Yeah.
Right? I want them to feel it. I always say in my intake sessions, my MO for the whole thing is to educate and empower. Mm-hmm. My job is to provide psychoeducation. My job is to help maybe connect some dots. My job is to kind of like give some perspective to why some people might do things or why they might react to something, right? To start like having these deeper conversations. And then I want to create a space where they feel empowered to take that information and do whatever they feel is best for them.
Yep.
Even if I might be looking at that and going, I wouldn't do that. And that's not a judgment.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes we've seen the story happen so many times. We're like, uh-oh, I see the train is coming.
Yep.
But that's not our call to make.
No. My job is to create that relationship that they know they can do whatever they feel they need to do, whether it is a success or a monumental flop, and we can come back together and we can hash through the why. And I think that is what is so misunderstood. And any therapist I know that is half decent operates that way. Mm-hmm. And I think something else that I get mad at, and you and I have had this conversation about content online. Good therapists, good, ethical, caring, I want to do right by the world therapists make boring content. And not boring in that it's bad, but boring to the algorithm.
Yeah, they're adding in nuance and
We're trying to explain things. We're trying to make sense of things. We are trying to feel that we're still honoring our ethics in the things that we talk about and being aware of how things are interpreted and all of that. And coaches get to get on. Average people get to get on and they say whatever the hell they want. Mel has no constrictions. None of those.
She's empowered by people, actually.
Yes. Yes. Huberman has no restrictions. He can say whatever he wants.
Yep.
My concern is when they grab a concept that they have heard in passing or have had maybe one or two people briefly explain to them what these things mean. And then they then take that and shoot it out into the internet ether with no caveat, like explanation, no understanding for why they would need to even say that publicly.
Yeah.
Like, what are they getting out of sharing this content.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just goes out into the world, and then people trust these figures. They trust what people say. And so they see that from someone and they're like, oh my God, yeah, like you're absolutely right. And it's confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so much of this is so confusing because if you don't have somebody to hold your hand through that process to figure out how it applies to you, it is always going to feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
What do you feel people have misunderstood about your content?
Oh.
Big question.
Well, I did a post about stop protecting your peace that I made. I plan my content like a month in advance, and it happened to come out the day that all this estrangement stuff came out. And I think a lot of people thought I was talking about estrangement as like stop protecting your peace. And I think that what I really want people to know is that I was saying that in terms of you get to choose whoever is in your life. I don't care whether it's your parents or not, whether it is siblings or not, cousins or not, friends, like that all is your choice. And I don't think that you should stay in relationships that are destroying you or negatively impacting you and don't have a way to change. I think, yes, we also sometimes, especially I think with friendships more than family, sometimes are quick to cut someone off, to diagnose them as having a problem. Because there isn't that long history, it's easier to sort of a lot of times, and friendships aren't super defined, it's much easier to actually get out of friendships. So I think that's the nuance. But in general, I think it doesn't like, I don't care who you have in your life. I just think if we're subtracting people from our lives, we need to make sure we're adding people too. Because loneliness does really, really matter. Connection scientifically not only is one of the best things for your mental health, but when people like you live longer, when people look back at their lives, relationships are the number one thing that positively, having good relationships in your life are positively correlated to your mental health, to life satisfaction, to lower depression. But it doesn't matter what those relationships are. And I think anti-estrangement people are super focused on it has to be your parents.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be. Your circle can be small. I just want to make sure you're spending time with your circle. Like that was what people were kind of pushing back on my comments. They were saying, well, I protect my peace and I have like wonderful friends and stuff. And I was like, that's great. I'm not talking to you at all. I'm talking about the people who are like invited to a party and they're like, I don't feel like going today, so I'm going to protect my peace. Or there's an uncomfortable conversation I need to have with a friend and I'm going to protect my peace and not have that.
Right. I'm so glad you brought this up. I'll answer kind of the same question I asked you really quick, and then like I'll loop it back in. Because I think so many people think my content is mean sometimes because I have expectations of people.
What specifically?
And maybe this is something we need to explore in a different episode. Yeah. But I think sometimes people think my stuff is incredibly privileged.
Yeah. I knew that. Right. That they're like, must be nice that you can get up and make your bed. And it's like,
like, it's like, okay, well, whatever. And kind of like, these systems make it so that I can't live like this. And I'm like, well, that's not true. Yeah, it's hard. Life is hard for anybody. It's just different.
Well, it's like someone wrote on my Protect the Peace, like they were like, well, I'm not going to do any of this because we need to destroy capitalism first. And I was like, I'm not even arguing with you that capitalism is a real problem. But if you want to change capitalism, you actually need to talk to people. You need to organize. Like, you can't just be like, this is a problem, I'm not participating. We all, unfortunately, are responsible for, like, I don't want to either, but we unfortunately do have to engage in trying to change the systems that we don't like.
Right. And what you are introducing is allowing people the opportunity to choose what is best for them. And I think that's what people lose is it's like, if you keep surrendering all of your power to these systems that have existed time immemorial, you will never get anything that you want out of life ever, period, end of story. I don't care what it is. If you continue to lay down and let everything around you dictate what you do or don't do, yeah, life's going to suck and you are going to feel completely powerless. And at some point you have to choose to turn around and be like, okay, even though this is the most small microcosmic element of my life, this is where I'm going to start. And I think when people see protecting your peace might be protecting you too much, they're like, well, how dare you tell me what my life experience has been? And it's like, well, if you're having a spicy reaction to that, there's a really strong chance you see something in that you relate to. And maybe with some people in your life, you were too quick to cut the cord. Maybe there were some people that you could have had a conversation with, and that other person would have been willing to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I tried to push in people, is this deep sense of reflection of, is this too hard, or am I listening to my most insecure parts? Right? Am I listening to my most fear-based parts within my brain and within myself? And that is spinning the narrative that I couldn't do this. This doesn't work for me. This isn't possible for me. I can't. And I think for you too, it's like, God forbid you see something that doesn't apply to you and you keep scrolling. If you feel perfectly confident and rooted in the decisions you make, you should not be so easily disrupted by content you see.
Or maybe, you need better boundaries about maybe you're online too much.
Yes.
And I think too, it's like, it's normal if you've gone through like severe trauma, something really difficult, that your boundaries are going to be locked down and super tight. And it's normal. So maybe you are in that phase. That's great. Again, the content doesn't apply to you. Then we're talking about people who aren't necessarily locked down in that space, or who are open to sort of expansion and exploring it.
Yes. And it's not bad to explore why you did something. You can sit in that space of being reflective of why you made a decision without having to immediately rectify or redo the whole thing. You are allowed to sit in that space and say like, oh, like, I have a really hard time with the fact that I did this. I'm sometimes not sure why I did that, right? And if you have a good therapist, they're going to be like, yeah, why?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Mm-hmm. Not in a like finger pointing way, but be like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
What was it in life at the time that made you feel that that was what you needed to do? Does it still feel aligned?
Yep.
Does it still feel values-based to be estranged from whoever it is, right? Does it still feel values-based to be distant, to not be engaging in this thing, whether it's a relationship or something else?
Yeah.
There has to be deeper self-exploration. And I think people want to dig in there thinking that they are going to find ultimate truth.
There isn't ultimate truth. That's the insanity.
No, because there are things that I help one client come to, one realization, one element, that I would not for the one I have immediately after them.
Yeah.
Because their lives are completely different. Their access to resources are completely different. The concern that they have is completely different. It is so unique. Yeah. And let your unique life circumstance be that.
Yeah.
And let yourself practice some of that confidence in both of those directions, either having more confidence in what you've chosen, or also being open to, that could change.
Yep.
Circumstances have changed and I'm willing to look at it differently.
Totally. So per usual, we have no answers. Lots of questions, lots of ideas. But this is, I feel like this is the core, like this is the core thing that we're always sort of wrestling with at Nuance Needed, is the overcorrect. How do we find the middle? How do we use these terms appropriately? And how do we like come back to our own values and live a life that is meaningful to us?
Yes.
We will be doing 2 rerun episodes in 2 weeks so that we can take a little break for the holidays. And a lot of you probably haven't heard them because they were really early episodes. So definitely, if you haven't listened, tune in to those.
And as per usual, if you could do anything to get the word out about the pod, we had some, I don't want to use the word shocking, but I think some surprising stats from Spotify Wrapped that is all thanks to you and how vocal you've been about the pod and how much you've loved it and the loyalty that you have to us. And it literally means the world to us. And it's been the thing that's helped us carry on through this. with that, I continue to ask, and I will, because I'm willing to beat a dead horse. If you could rate, review, share, subscribe, anything that you can do to get the word out, commenting, letting us know on the episodes what you thought, what it brought up for you, ideas that you have for us. We always love to hear your thoughts and hear your feedback. And yeah,
we'll see you next week.
Bye.